Thank you, Scott, and welcome. We're excited for having you join us today for our conversation about how to unlock AI for fundraisers, and we'll broadly talk about nonprofits in general too, utilizing with the Microsoft 365 Copilot. These programs that we've been putting together, these webinars for nonprofit, really are focused all around how do we better use our time so we can free up our staff to really pursue our mission and not get so hung up in technology. We want to demystify some of the technology attributes that are being kicked around and help you be more effective in really delivering your mission. To do that today, I'm pleased to have a co-presenter with me who brings extensive background on this topic. Micah Adler is joining us today. Micah is the founder and president of an organization called Anyone Can Fundraise. He helps fundraisers understand and use AI to uncover grants, engage donors, and surface real-time insights and more. He's there to guide organizations through structure, through the strategy, and to initially assemble the full automation that ensures each of you to be able to build a capacity without overwhelming your team. So I'm pleased to have Micah join us today. Myself, Bob Sullivan, I'm co-founder and president of InfoGrow. I bring 30 years of helping organizations achieve their expectations from using CRM systems. Core CRM for membership and clients, and expanded CRM for when we get into donor relations, management, fundraising, volunteer management, and et cetera with that. So I'm excited to join you today here too. Our presentation today, we're going to walk through each of these steps, and we're going to talk about why we're here, what's the value of AI to your organization. That'll be brief because you're overwhelmed probably with information hitting your desktop every day, if not every hour, about AI. We'll talk about the three levels of Microsoft AI, how they present their product groupings in this area, and how fundraisers really can leverage these levels of Copilot to be more effective. As part of that, you'll see some live demos that we've incorporated to help you understand some of the opportunities with this tool. And then we'll focus on how you map out a path to have impact of this tool within your organization. And of course, have a Q&A at the end. Stay around to the end because there also will be some offers as we get to the end of the program today. So let's get started here. Let's take a little bit deeper dive. Of course, fundraising is harder than ever. And AI is probably a case of where it's more not any longer a nice to have, but becoming essential. When you look at how a lot technology comes forward inside of adoption in organizations, this has been a standard bell curve of how technology is really deployed out and how it affects organizations. We have the early innovators, people who are really out on the bleeding edge of getting into the technology and learning it. Then we have early adopters, but most of us usually fall in the early majority or late majority, and there's a number of people who are laggards. The thing about this AI issue is that we see consistently, seeing unique, I think, more to the AI deployment, is how rapidly it's moving through these first three stages. We are really into the early majority, I think, in terms of how this operation, how this product is being deployed in an organization. Partly because the application itself, AI, is building upon itself as it moves forward. So the day where a part of our discussion is, where do you want to be on this curve? What's the value of your organization of jumping in at different points, and how do you benefit from moving forward in that and moving forward with AI in your organization? You know the challenges. You've heard them a number of times. Now more than ever, you're trying to get the most out of your budgets. You're trying to get the most out of your teams. It's absolutely essential. It's hard to find people. It's hard to keep people. It's hard to find money. All those issues are probably been, intensified in this last year. And the real issue that we're addressing here is that how do we move things forward to help you leverage tools to free up teams so you can be working with your own mission and excelling at that area. Statistics are telling us that 60% of nonprofits lack the time as their biggest barrier for scaling. So we want to make sure we're helping you in that area, how to move that needle forward to get more out of your resources that you have to invest. This quote that came out of the CEO of Microsoft is quite interesting. And what it tells us is that AI is not only being embraced by organizations like Microsoft, but I think it's telling something else more that runs here between the lines. AI is going to fundamentally change how you work, whether you're ready or not. What we're seeing and predicting, downstream here is that the applications that you're currently working with, for example, donations, donor applications or CRM tools, are going to be completely different. They're not going to be the same kind of application as you've been experiencing in the future. They're going to be much more what's called agents, and we're going to talk a little more about that as we drill deeper into our conversation today. And what's meant by that? Well, let's take something in terms of the donation side, and let's just explain what that means. You could be using Donor Perfect or Blackbot or others that are out there, Salesforce or Microsoft, whatever it is. But think about how you now take a tribute gift. Right now, you probably have a person in your organization who opens up, the application, whatever it is, has a stack of envelopes or a stack of receipts or checks on their desk and starts working through it to find, who the person is, how they match to other gifts that they may have. Is it a relationship to somebody else? Is this a household that we need to deal with? And you're going through that very manual kind of process. Envision, if you will, a different kind of scenario. They go to their desktop and they're clicking on an icon that says tribute processing. And that processing is bringing up the list that's exceptions. They already have had a look at all the checks, all the envelopes, all the receipts that have been received, the bank deposits, the bank lockbox deposit, and already has matched it as best it can to existing donors that are within the system. And it's now presenting a list of exceptions that it couldn't match and asking you to deal with those exceptions and work through those. And when you're done with that exceptions, it's not time for you to print the letters or the emails that go out as a thank you to the organization. You're closing the application and the AI tool is doing the rest. It knows what funds those records should be associated with. It knows what tribute letters they should be receiving, whether they want it by email or whether they want it by a letter. And it takes care of that, and you're done with that processing for the day. This is how you should expect, the impact of AI having on the application and workload that's coming downstream. Think about it when it comes to, looking at, major donors. You're going to get a list of questions that have to be asked to whether, how you want to process this gift from a major donor and led through step by step for that processing. And when it comes time to do an annual campaign, it again is going to deliver up to you. Here's our process for how we do an annual campaign. Here are the questions we need you to address. And then after you address those questions, we're off and running to execute the effort. This is what you can expect to see in terms of the impact that AI is going to have on your workloads and how they're going to change in the future. The promise then of AI, there's big three promises here for you. One, the ability to scale people and resources. It's going to automate workflows in terms of working through this, freeing up capacity for you to do more on the strategy side and more on the relationship side. It's going to be a big boost to productivity is what's being promised. Be able to draft letters, to be able to build campaigns, to be able to sort through lists, to do some of the mundane manual efforts that you have now going. One of the examples that we use a lot when we see organizations and we talk about getting all the data in one place, one of the problems we always see with that not happening is that I've got a donor list over here and I got a volunteer list over on the other side in a different silo. And I've got to merge all of that. And I've got to find duplications. And I've got to see what their past history is. Expect that process to be done by AI in the future to help you do that and work that through. The tools will exist to help move that through, do the data cleanup, and do that kind of deduplication and moving of records together before you then are doing the annual campaign. It's going to unlock the ability for you to grow and scale. And these are the big promises that AI has out here. And you're going to be asked to be building the questions that tells AI what to do next. So a key skill set for you in the future is going to be building what's called prompts in terms of how to tell AI what you want it to do, in terms of how it should work and give you the kind of response that you want back. So it's going to be let AI handle the repetitive so you can refocus more. Jump through the automated task, automate the repetitive task. It's going to allow you to scale without necessarily having to add additional staff, or they may be different resources that you're using instead. It's going to enable teams to stay consistent in terms of working that area together and focus on impact. AI is all about cutting corners for you and saving time. It's not about in terms of reducing staff. It's going to be able to help you process routine events, routine requests, event registrations, donation receipts, manage appointments and schedules. That's where this whole piece is moving in terms of with you. And what Microsoft has done in this world is really presents 3 levels of tools that are available for you to work with in this AI space. And we're going to talk about all 3 today and show you some examples in each. The first level is going to be Copilot Chat, where you're able to really look at drafting, donor thank you letters or social posts in a matter of seconds, summarize requirements for grants, start working, get ideas for new projects. Copilot 365 Copilot is more along the lines that's going to work with your existing data, whether they be files that you've saved in SharePoint, document files, or Excel files that you've worked with. Look at that data set and do the analysis, the drive then, the drafting of those type of correspondence, or the summary of what actions and programs should take place. Studio, Copilot Studio, is the application that's going to build the agents to do those kind of repetitive tasks, whether the chat bots, the tribute processing bot. Those type of agents is what Copilot Studio exists for. And it's going to be the tool that allows you to send out that unique kind of approach and make that work with you in terms of how you're going to manage then your data and the individuals that you're working with. It'll be an assistant. For example, you can build a bot it's on your website answering questions, or a voice bot that's answering the phones in terms of saving you time and moving forward. That's going to come through the AI Studio in terms of how you build that tool out. So those are the 3 levels we're going to talk about today. I'm anxious to get Micah in here to pick up the conversation and start talking about the first couple areas here and Copilot Chat. So Micah, lead us through a deeper dive here.
For sure. Thank you, Bob. So yeah, the Copilot Chat is like the basic start place of Microsoft. And a lot of people actually don't know this exists, but if you have a subscription, you get it. And basically what you can do, you can answer questions in regards to like anything you want. And it actually has connection to different sources in terms of like what you have in your drive. So it it basically you can talk to it. So what we're going to go through right now is a grant opportunities flow, a demo. And then after that, I'm going to go through Copilot, which is also available inside Outlook. It's available inside Word and Excel and PowerPoint. I'm just going to go through Outlook today and Word, and then, but you'll get the idea. So it's going to be sort of interesting walkthrough, hopefully, for you. And the benefits are that Copilot is built into Microsoft 365 Office Suite. So it means that even if you're on the basic version, you get Copilot, and it's really integrated into all things that you do with Microsoft. And you get real-time web data. It produces very clean data inside Excel, and you can manipulate that data. And once you get into Copilot Studio as well, which I'll do later in the demo, there's some pretty amazing connectors and some cool stuff that you can do. So what I'm going to do right now is share my screen, and we can go through a demo. So here we go. Here. So just to make sure I'm sharing the correct screen, hopefully you can see it, which is good. So this is chat. This is the initial screen. You can see the apps here. You can create stuff, you can search. There's a lot of like capabilities in here. And this is available to everybody who has the basic version. You can pull up documents. But what I'm going to do is I actually created a prompt. So there's prompt engineering, but now people have moved to what is called context engineering. So it's bringing in context. And the prompt that I'm going to walk you through is called the Grant Finder AI. So I placed it in here, and all we need to do is press go. And we're dealing with a real organization, Big Brothers, Big Sisters America. And this is just public information on the web. And what it does is if you put in the name of the organization and you put in the URL, then it will ask you to confirm that this is the correct organization. And since we know that this is the correct organization, then I'm going to just say confirm. You can see that we can create this so it walks people step by step through this. So you can actually have this for your entire organization, have people go through the same framework, which is really important to keep the data clean. And then I'm going to just say confirm. And what it's going to do, it's going to find grants on the internet which are related to this organization, the mission, and within the correct time frame as well. So you can see there are grants here, and it's pulling from the World Wide Web, right? And what I've asked it to do is to give me the grants and the related information, where they got this from. So you can see the links to those grants, and then getting in touch with the program officer. And then it will give you like different types of grants. So we have rolling grants and upcoming grants. And it will do all this. The cool thing about this is it's an ongoing conversation with AI and with the framework, which is really, really important. And then the other interesting piece is within the prompt that I created next steps. So you can say, okay, this is what you would do, staff, in order to follow up on this grant. You would first reach out to the program manager because you don't want to turn in a grant, for example, that is not appropriate for the organization. So then you would want to reach out. Then you would want to start drafting the actual grant proposal, track the deadlines. This is something that each organization can customize, but it can work throughout the organization for every individual who uses this particular prompt. So it guides them. And then you can go along, show me how to draft the proposal. And there's a bunch of different questions. You can basically talk to what they've given you so far. That's the first example, and that's within chat. The second example, I'll just go through quickly, is in Outlook. So the cool thing about Outlook is if I have an email about, let's say, potential new prospects, then I can speak to that through Copilot. One of the funny things about the new Copilot, it's actually available in Outlook, it's available in Word, it's available in Excel, but sometimes you have to press return and refresh to see this. And I found that because it's so new, it even works in OneNote. So I'm going to press go again. This is, can you give me, I didn't spell it right, professional email to reach out to James Patel, who's in this email. So I'm asking for a professional email here, and then I just press go. And what it's going to do, it's going to produce a professional email. And then what I can do is I can edit this and send this out to that individual. And you can do this for any email inside Outlook. So this is super helpful. And then it goes on and you can do, other tasks related to the email. You can copy it and paste it back into the email, or you can edit it. So this is what you can do in Outlook. Just one more example. Again, within Word, it's very similar. So it's going to read the Word document, and then it's going to give me a quick summary of what's in this document. So this is about events at an environmental nonprofit. So these are a bunch of events, and I've just asked for a summary of the events and the revenue and overall success. So I'm going to just press here. It's going to give me, hopefully, so yeah, it's going to give me a quick summary and where it came from. So this is also important. It shows where this data came from. And then you can say, for example, show me a table comparing all events. So you can actually get, and I have another prompt here, which would say, can you give me a chart? So I'm going to just copy and paste something here. There we go. So can you give me a chart that will represent this for the event and make sure that it provides useful information to the executive director? So then it will provide a chart which basically uses the data that's inside the Word document. It will analyze it, and it takes a bit to analyze it. So I wanted to make sure that if it takes too long analyzing it, I have another example, because you'll always have to prepare in terms of a live demo. But it's doing the analyzing here, but I'm just going to flip over. Okay, there it goes. It's faster. So yeah, it's going to analyze the data that's here and the event attendees, and it's going to give me graphics, and it's going to go for the revenue of the event. And you can copy this and paste this into the document or use it some other place. So this is all the different types of prompts and information you can do. And the cool thing is it's within your Office suite. So then the data remains inside your Office suite, and you can work with the data that you have. So Excel or PowerPoint. And yeah, so there's a lot you can do. In a bit, I'll go through Copilot Studio, but Scott will now take you through the next step.
Thank you, Micah. My name is Scott Horvath. I do a lot of the marketing and digital marketing here at InfoGrow, and I'm going to walk you through the second level of Microsoft AI, Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, Microsoft 365 Copilot is an extension of the Copilot that you just saw. Everything that you saw in that initial Copilot, you get with Microsoft 365 Copilot, but with a lot of added benefits as well. And I could spend all day talking about all the different things that you get with 365 Copilot, but I'm just going to focus on two that I think are very relevant for fundraisers. The first is that it is connected with your organizational data. So that means instead of just going out on the web searching for publicly accessible information, it's actually looking at your donors, past campaigns, events, grant history, because it's accessing your SharePoint files, emails you've sent, meetings that you've had in Teams, and any other records that are saved in your Microsoft environment. You can think of it sort of as having a fundraising assistant who already knows your organization's backstory and supporters, so you don't have to spend the time pre-prompting it, giving it the context. It already has that context when you're starting. So I am going to show an example, and this first one, you can see when you have the 365 Copilot, you still have this basic web search that the initial Copilot have, but then you also have this work tab. And this is where it accesses your organizational data. So I'm going to show an example where before in Micah's example, he had to have a Word document and upload it to give it that context, which you still can. Like I said, anything that is in the basic version is in this upgraded version. But as an added benefit, you don't even have to give it that context if you don't need to. So I'm giving it this prompt. Can you summarize the fundraising campaign results and write a letter for the donors that showcases the impact that their dollar had? I didn't give it a file to look at. I didn't tell it where to look for this information. Copilot is going to go into our SharePoint, into past meetings and emails that we've sent, and pull together all that different context to sort of give a complete story. And as you can see here, it gave a result. It's showing all the sources that it's pulling these from. These are mock data that I've uploaded to our SharePoint. One is this fundraising campaign overview, where it's getting this from. It's writing a letter based off of all of that information. And you can see here the sources. It's looking at a lot of different stuff. And I didn't tell it where to look. It's just pulling it based off of context and things that we have saved. So this first one, it's looking at that fundraising campaign overview. It's looking at meetings that we've held in the past, a ton of different emails, PDFs we have saved, PowerPoints. Like I said, Excel files. It'll look at basically anything that you have saved in your Microsoft environment if it's relevant and pull it in to get a much more contextual thing without you needing to pre-prep it. Hey, here's the document that I want you to look at. Here's everything that you need. The second thing I want to show that comes with the 365 Copilot are the agents. Now, these agents are quite powerful. There are a few out here. There are a few that come preloaded. The one that I'm going to focus on today is this researcher agent. Now, researcher is sort of like the next level of the web search. For this first example, I'm going to ask it, what are the latest trends in donor behavior for nonprofit organizations in the last year? Now, if you were to ask the Copilot web search this, it would return you some decent information. It would give you, here's a report we found, here's a source. But researcher, what it does, it wants to make sure that it's giving you the most relevant, deepest insights it can. So it doesn't just give you an answer right away. It's going to ask you follow-up questions to make sure that you get something good. For example, on this one, it's asking, what trends are you talking about? All nonprofits or a specific sector like education, health, environmental, faith-based? Should it include individual or institutional donors or both? And are you looking for global trends or on a specific region or country? Now, I could go through filling this out, but I already have it saved an example here. So I can show you. Latest trends, you can see it asked the same thing. I filled in what we're looking for, and it pulled in quite an in-depth report. You can see it gave this overview card here of sort of just the general overview of everything it pulled through. It's showing broad fundraising patterns across the specific sector, which I said was education in this example. Here's where it dives into the evolving expectations of donors. And you can see this is quite a lot of information. It's giving all of the sources that it's pulling from. It's also pulling from internal documents. Like I said, it's not just looking on the web. It is also going to look for your internal stuff as well, because it's connected to your Microsoft environment. Here's the education specific examples. And as you can see, this is a much more in-depth answer than you would get just asking the basic Copilot. It's really answering any question you could have. And you can then follow this up with follow-up questions like, can you explain some part of this? Can you dig deeper into this part that you put? And it's really just an incredibly in-depth research assistant. One more example I had that I like to show is I had it pull together some best practices for organization or for organizing a hybrid fundraising event, because I think that's quite relevant to organizations that host a lot of events, of what are the best practices we can do. And like I said, it just gives this first initial general overview after asking its follow-up questions. And it just goes incredibly in depth compared to what you get from the basic chat. So this can be used by organizations who just need a bit more. You're doing deep research. Say you're a grant writer or a major gift officer who really needs some information on what grants can you look for? What are the types of things that are important for XYZ grant, or we're thinking of hosting an event? It's just a powerful tool for you to use to help do deep research. And that comes included with the Microsoft 365 Copilot edition. Next, I'm going to jump back into the presentation and hand things back over to Micah to explain the level 3 of Microsoft AI.
So yeah, this is Copilot Studio. And this is basically where you can create those agents that Scott just talked about, but these are custom agents. And it is super powerful. You can create agents, and you'll see an agent that I've created for AI prospecting and how that prospecting should happen. There's actually multiple models that you can use. So the initial example that I gave was with a slower model, just a lighter model, but you can use GPT-5 and it will work better. Not all LLMs are created equal, so not all AI models are created equal. So it means that they'll give you more information, more in-depth information. There's tools, so there's data connectors, Salesforce Sheets, connect inside Microsoft, but also outside Microsoft. So these agents will be able to do that if you set that up. And there's triggers. So if you want to set a trigger for something to happen within the agent, then you can do that. And then you can actually chain agents together, which is cool. So if I have a grant finder, for example, agent, then it will find the grants. But the next thing I would like to do is have a grant writer agent, which will write the grant. So agents are like, you can chain it, and I'll show you how, just really briefly, how you can do that. So it's very, very powerful. Also, one thing that's worth mentioning is you can deploy these agents within Word, Excel, within all the different Microsoft suite. So that's very useful as well. So once you create it, it can become a sort of uniform template for people working in the organization. So this is an actual Copilot Studio. It's not beautiful, but I'm using this piece basically to show you what's inside it, and then an example of how it would work. So this is Prospect Finder. And then it says here, I will find prospects for you utilizing your network and warm introductions. So when people are looking for prospects, the best would be to have a connector who's on a director or an employee for the organization, somebody who's somehow connected to the organization who can give a warm introduction. And what this means is here I gave it instructions, so you can read the instructions for this particular prospect finder. This is what it goes through, kind of like a larger prompt. I gave it certain knowledge base. This is the instructions for the actual agent. You can add in tools, like I said before, so different tools. If I wanted to send it, for example, to Outlook to create a draft, that's another option that you could do with the agent. Triggers, so once I've done X, then it would do Y more automatically, creating an automation. And like I said, you can add in agents. So a grant finder and then a grant writer could be in one agent here. And that's about it. So then what I'm going to do is take you through a real life example. And it's a real organization, put in the URL and basically say go. So it's going to go. It takes a little bit of time. It needs to search the web and it will say here what it's doing. So it's reviewing the sources and then it's looking at the web. And you can see it came out with a pretty concise answer. So the organization is this is the executive director, and these are the board members. This is all public data that's available on the web. And then if I say confirm, it will continue. So it will continue to the next step, which were in the instructions that I had just showed you. And now we'll show you the leadership team, the board, and it will show you a bit more sort of different connectors. And then if I say confirm again, it should go to the next step, which is the prospects. And sometimes you have to tell it, hey, I want more connectors, and it will give you more connectors. Or you can say, I want more prospects, and it will do that as well. And the cool thing is that this is a framework, and you can speak to that framework. So here you can see that this is a connector, and then it's going to give you, and then you got to sort of go to say, give me related prospects. And then it will show you the prospects that are related to these particular connectors. So this is how you can continuously talk to your data within the framework that has been created here. And it will continue to search the web and do the different activities. And then finally, what you can do is you can say, okay, well, I want the connector to write an email to the prospect, but I'm going to reach out first to that connector who's a director and say, hey, could you please do this for me? It will create that email for you to send out to the director requesting for them to connect with the prospect. And then what you could do within the same framework, and you can see here that it pulls the prospects. So these are potential prospects. And it just goes on and on. It will create a dashboard for you and emails and the whole process, which you could finally end by saying, okay, could you draft an email in Outlook for me? And then it will do that as well. So the potential is literally unlimited. There's a lot you can do, and this can be utilized throughout your Microsoft 365 suite. So there's so much you can do. But yeah, I'll stop the demo there.
Very good. So we're going to talk about, in terms of summarizing, how we capstone some of these three tools and the three levels here. But prior to that, I think it's important to talk about how you prepare for this, how you prepare for an AI implementation. And the biggest point of this is your data. As you saw in the initial phase, level 1, the initial chat will allow you to talk to the information by reaching out to the web and asking questions and working through information that way, or pointing to a specific email that you have or a specific file that you want to work with. Not a lot of data management needs to happen to do, the free version, working with the chat model, at the chat level. But as you progress up and you're wanting to look at your data and look at your information, your documents, quite a lot of attention needs to be given to where that information is at, who has access to that, and the condition of that information. So the biggest item in terms of preparing for AI is going to be how you look at your data. It's the lifeblood of how this system is going to work for you. The second point is going to be governance, to ensure that you're using it ethically, that you're using it with the correct security parameters in place of who has access, what data is being shared and worked through, and establishing clear goals for how that data is worked, the data management that is going to ensure the alignment with your culture. How are you going to share this information? How are you going to access it? The item to keep in mind is that your data is not being shared out to the web. It's closed in your information, but still within your system, who has access to the information, who has rights to use this technology infrastructure and grow from there with it. Building a roadmap for AI is think in terms of starting small, but starting. And we'll talk a bit in terms of the different levels, but the free tools, I think your people are probably using them already, but you may want to put some parameters around those tools about how they're being used and what information is being developed from those. Adopt really an orientation for how you're going to train your staff and get them to be more effective with this. And that's part of extending the governance to go to the next step of where you're going to take AI in your organization, what level you want to be with in the organization on that bell curve, and where you want to start tackling and seeing the benefits first. And then integrating it directly within your organization to tackle specific events. That's where you're going to be moving forward with this. AI, as we talked about, comes in three levels. This first level is the chat, the free chat area. Now, your users are probably doing that now with their own chat bots, whether they be through Amazon or other choices, or through Microsoft. They're most likely involved with doing the chat level at this point. It's free with your subscription to Microsoft 365, so it comes with your Office products, so it's embedded already with the Word and Excel, PowerPoint. It works just with those already. It allows you to take those Office apps, deal with individual files, groups of files, and take them the next farther to create references, create analysis. So it's a free bot. You're really not saving information. You're not taking a lot of advantages, but it is productivity. You can see some benefits from right away from learning how that works and getting used to working with the tool. So that's level one, that's free. 365 Copilot, the extension of that, is now, it's available at $25.50 per user per month. And what it does is it's taking us, as we were showing there, as Scott was showing there, it's looking at your SharePoint folders. It's looking at your databases. It's looking at emails. It's looking at groups of information that's already been told, here's where our data is at. here's where our files for this particular agent should be located at. And then it's applying that to the questions you're raising to. It's doing the analysis or doing the research to ground that information together, to group it, to bring you back a solution. So it's a much deeper kind of insights into what you have, for that, in terms of working that area. Studio gets into working in terms of working with your building an agent, and this price information is incorrect here. It's not per user, it's per installation. It's $200 a month per the application to use in your organization to start building your own studios. And you're creating and publishing your own agents then. This could be something as simple as a bot on your website that's answering questions. It could be automatically pointing at all your answers, all your emails, all your, instead of building web pages of where you have to have answers for every different topic that comes up, and a copy of, web page that addresses each kind of scenario. That's all in one file. And you point the people to the agent, and it goes out and looks for the answers across all this data and brings it back and interacts and escalates it to a live person if necessary, from there. So you can build that kind of agent. The same exists on the voice side to answering questions in terms of working with it. But that's the studio version. In terms of that's where you start getting into building agents to take on a specific task and perform it for you. I want to remind you as we're getting close to the end here, that start building your questions. We want you to start adding to the Q&A up here your questions so that we can address them based on anything we've covered so far and things we've not covered that you'd like to see us address in the future. But start building your questions out. We have an offer here for you. It's actually a two-part offer. It's two sides of the offer. One is to see how, prepare your database and tools are. We have a checklist for you in terms of organization overview and how to focus your efforts and recommendations. That's available for you to download. And then we also have a free starter gift, a starter kit. What Micah showed you in terms of the prospect builder and the grant radar template, those are prompts that exist inside that can be used to put into the base product, the chat product that drives that prospect file or drives that grant search file. And those are available for you. Those can be downloaded as part of this kit to help you get started. So we're going to make that presented to you. Okay.
Just a quick
Go ahead.
Yeah. There's actually in the starter kit, there's much more available in addition to what you see here. So it's really, I think it's really worth it.
Super. Definitely is. But let's jump into questions, because I think that's where a lot of you are going to be at this point. And I'll turn it back over to Scott. I'm going to go back to leave our kit availability and the offer availability here. And Micah and I will be available to answer these questions. So go ahead, Scott.
Yes, so before I jump into the questions, I am just going to say this is a live PowerPoint presentation. So on your actual Teams window, you can click that link at the bottom and it'll take you directly to the landing page where you can get these resources. And then first question, and I think this is a question you hear a lot around AI, really the second part, but how do we help staff feel confident about using Copilot if they're worried about the AI just outright replacing them?
Micah, do you want to take a shot at that one and I can follow up?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like in general, for the staff, from my perspective, what I'm doing and what Microsoft does for the nonprofits is it empowers the staff to be able to utilize AI to make them more productive. And you can't, like nonprofits, they continuously need to build capacity. It's not replacing people. It's empowering people because like if you replace people, there's not going to be anybody left. So you just like basically the way we're utilizing it is to empower, and you need a human in the loop because we're dealing not only with the tools, but the prospects and the people that you need to talk with, they're humans. So you need people to understand it and utilize it to help them better.
Yeah, I think there's the people aren't going to go away here. With the setting up the prompts, setting up the bots or the studios are going to be necessary for people who understand your culture and your values and how you want to present the information, how you want to serve your team, serve your clients. So I don't think there's going to be a shortage of need for people, but it's going to allow you to maybe scale more to get more value out of the resources you do have.
Yeah, just one more example. If you were to create an email, so you had AI help you create an email, if it could create the email quickly, you could utilize your knowledge and do more in-depth research to make that email better and more human and really do what would be the research that should be done in regards to that prospect and put that effort in. So it allows you to put more effort in because it's doing a lot for you.
Yeah, take you out of the maybe the clerical aspects and more into the strategy aspects.
Exactly.
Okay. Scott, are there others?
Yes. Next one is what kind of staff do I need to deploy AI / what backgrounds should they have?
Let me start with this one. I think the biggest thing that you're going to need is people who understand your operating processes. People who can really write out business analysts inside, who can identify what your standard operating process is. AI promises, what you hear out there being a natural language of telling it what to do, and that's true to some extent, but you got to know where it's going to find the data and where the files are at and how those are organized and how they're structured to make maximum use out of it. So really understanding, what data you have, what documents you have, how they're classified, where they're placed at, is going to be a big need, paying attention to that and cleaning that data and keeping it relevant. Those are my thoughts. Micah, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's good to have somebody who understands Microsoft. If you're going deeper into like Microsoft Studio and some of the more in-depth pieces, then having people who understand that, technical people as well, and bridging that with the staff is also a very important piece to have.
Good, good. Yes, Scott?
The next one is how can we standardize prompts or workflows to ensure everyone's using Copilot in the same way?
It's going to be part of your governance, in terms of how you structure how it's going to be used, and also in terms of what the levels you make available to each different user groups and different roles. I think you get there through a governance, which is going to include, really building a consensus of what we're trying to achieve here, and then working through that particular department or how we do it in this department versus that department, and executing it, laying out those guidelines. There's going to be some guardrails of where, it's pointing to what data and where that data is at. So setting up security parameters of who has access to information is going to remain the same, and be critical that that's being controlled.
Yeah, in terms of like the technical aspects, if you deploy agents and you've worked through what Bob just said in terms of governance and guardrails, you can build that into the agents, which is very useful. So once you deploy the agent into the org, so with whether you're in with Word or you're in Excel, those agents will contain those guardrails. So that's a useful piece of using Copilot Studio and the agents.
Okay. Scott, is there any others?
Yes, I'm gonna sort of combine these two, and I
Okay.
can answer part of this one because it's pretty relevant to what I showed. The first part is, can administrators control what staff members have access to certain Copilot features? And then two, when working with the 365 Copilot, does the system crawl your colleagues' emails and Teams chats or just your own personal ones? By default, it will only crawl your personal ones. Now, if you have access, that's something it goes in with the second part. If it's been granted access to be able to crawl different people's, like for specific permissions, it can, but not by default. By default, it will only look at emails that you are a part of, team chats that you are a part of. And as for controlling access, same thing. Yes, it's the same sort of, it follows Microsoft's security and role-based permission structure that you can turn things on or off on a per user level. And then, do we have time for one or
Sure,
two more?
let's do one more.
All right, I think this is the most relevant. If you could only implement AI in one spot, where should it be implemented first?
I don't know if I can answer that one. I think I would think in terms of ways of helping you handle, volumes of information that you're being asked to deliver. If you have to have a whole team of people that are addressing the phone ringing off the cook with questions, I might be looking at that and maybe trying to push them to bots that are helping them answer those questions and deal with the information. Think about something as you're coming up on the end of the year. How many calls are you taking where donors asking for their tax forms and for last year? Well, maybe there's an online bot that's giving them allowing them to make that request, having the security in place so it knows it's them, that's pulling up that information, giving a summary, generating the form, plus then also maybe something from your marketing department that's the one page of what's the impact of how their monies were spent. All that becomes a packet that goes out to them automatically without your staff having to be on the phone to deal with that. So I would look at areas of where you maybe you've got some log jams now that you would like to clear up as maybe a first spot. What do you think, Micah?
Yeah, I think that taking the easy tasks first, the tasks that aren't related, for example, to PII, there's a lot you can do. So there's a lot that it will help you with. And everything that I showed you with, for example, net new prospects or grants, that's really quantitative and helpful capacity building that you can use initially. And then as you move along your journey and start delving into more connected systems, you can develop the governance and the policy as you go along. So it's getting started really at getting the easy stuff done.
Great. Well, I appreciate everyone's attendance, and particularly appreciate your efforts here, Micah, and what we've tried to do here today. We put our information up here on the screen, and happy to field additional questions. As Scott mentioned, you'll be receiving a copy of the recording within a day here, and we appreciate your attendance.